next on your radar?
Well, last Friday, a New York grand jury finally indicted Donald Trump, as expected, relating to alleged hush money payments made to porn actress Stormy Daniels. It's the contention of Manhattan District Attorney Alvin Bragg that these payments violate campaign finance law. Now, Republicans and conservatives are universally furious that Bragg has taken this extraordinary step, and in their vociferous criticism of Trump, many have described Bragg as funded or supported by George Soros, the billionaire supporter of liberal causes and general boogeyman for people on the right. Now, Florida Governor Ron DeSantis, a potential rival of Trump's for the Republican nomination in 2024, assailed Bragg as a Soros-funded prosecutor, and that's just one example. Now, this kind of mudslinging is extremely common in politics, and both sides do it. Republicans accuse progressives of being Soros-backed, and Democrats accuse Republicans of being backed by a whole host of malicious forces: the NRA, the Koch brothers, Peter Thiel, AIPAC, and on and on and on. There's nothing new here. That's just the way politics goes. And yet, the mainstream media is running partial cover for Bragg and defending against the accusation that he is backed by Soros. Enter Glenn Kessler, the Washington Post fact checker. Now, I've liked some of Kessler's work in the past, but this was one fact check I couldn't quite get past. He writes, quote, "The incendiary claim that George Soros funded Alvin Bragg plays into anti-Semitic conspiracy theories that Soros, a Hungarian-American Holocaust survivor, is a wealthy puppet master who works behind the scenes to manipulate elections and further his goals. The Anti-Defamation League said in 2018 that Soros figures in a significant number of anti-Semitic tweets," end quote. And that's not the only person raising this issue. Here's MSNBC addressing the matter, and please note the chyron.
Joining me now is Peter Beinart, editor-at-large with Jewish Currents, an MSNBC political analyst and a professor of journalism and political science at the Newmark School of Journalism here in New York City. Peter, thanks for joining us. I've touched on this a few times in the last few nights, but I don't think there's enough that you can say about this, because literally every response from an elected Republican has included the expression Soros-backed district attorney. You know, I said to somebody it's a dog whistle. They said it's a train whistle. It's a blowhorn. It's not a dog whistle.
While it's undoubtedly true that some people oppose Soros' influence because they are racist and he's Jewish, look, many others oppose him simply because he spent millions of dollars bankrolling political figures and causes that they don't like. Soros spent $27 million trying to prevent President George Bush's reelection in 2004. You're not an anti-Semite merely for noticing that that's a lot of cash. Now, as to the matter at hand, Kessler gives the claim that Soros backed Alvin Bragg 3 Pinocchios, saying it's ultimately misleading, even though he notes it's, quote, technically correct. The complicating factor here is that Soros did not fund Bragg directly. How it worked is that Bragg received support from an organization called Color of Change, which is a progressive criminal justice group, when he ran in 2021. Color of Change pledged to spend $1 million on Bragg. A few days after making that pledge, Color of Change received $1 million from George Soros. Now, Color of Change did not actually donate the full $1 million to Bragg. Their final amount was just shy of $500,000. Still, that was a large expenditure. Bragg's total haul during his campaign was just over $3 million, so that's a significant chunk of it. Money's fungible, so it doesn't really matter if the literal dollars that Soros gave to Color of Change were the ones they gave to Bragg. Money is money. Now, I accept that for accuracy's sake, it'd be better to say Soros-backed than Soros-funded. But come on. I don't remember such careful distinctions being drawn when everyone in the mainstream media was bemoaning the Koch brothers' allegedly pernicious influence on political spending. Many mainstream outlets, including the Washington Post, have referred to individuals as Koch-supported, Koch-funded, and Koch-backed, even though the Kochs often send money not directly to candidates but via intermediary organizations. Now, disclaimer, I have worked for some of those organizations in the past, so take what I say with whatever grain of salt you like. But it's just silly to pretend that Alvin Bragg, who, as a progressive prosecutor and criminal justice reformer, was funded, albeit indirectly, by Soros. But look how Ben Collins, NBC's disinformation reporter, framed the issue. Donald Trump Donald Trump Jr. and Ron DeSantis have all claimed Alvin Bragg is Soros-backed or aligned since news of the indictment dropped, Collins wrote. In reality, Soros has never met or spoken to Alvin Bragg, according to a CNBC story from last week. Never met? Well, I've never met or spoken with Charles Koch, but that has never stopped anyone in the mainstream media from referring to me and my magazine Reason as Koch-backed. So I really hope this new rule is applied evenly from now on. You're not considered to be backed by a specific billionaire unless you're really like BFFs or something. Very, very silly stuff, Washington Post and others. So I don't know if you followed this, Batya, but it's so funny.
I mean, like, you're right. You're exactly right. If the Kochs like sneeze in the general direction of an organization that exists in some state, right? They are Koch-backed. But if George Soros, a 90-plus-year-old billionaire, doesn't personally hand you a check, it's wrong to say that it's Soros-backed. This standard of misleading, though correct, right? Isn't that just at the heart of so much of this, disinformation industry, right? That exists primarily to call people racist, as in this case, in order to hide the massive class divide that liberals, especially liberal elites in the media, are benefiting from. Kudos, Robby. What a great radar.
Thank you. And I get so annoyed with this, the kind of follow the money sort of obsession, journalistically reporting in mainstream and progressive outlets. That's always true for conservative causes. The NRA. We hear that all the time. How much money do they get from the NRA and so on? Which that's fine. Call that if you disagree with those groups and you think what they're spending on is bad. Absolutely, you should criticize it. But that's just what Republicans are doing here. It's not a dog whistle or a train whistle, as in that MSNBC clip the host said. To any criticism of George Soros is anti-Semitic. That's not fair to people who disagree with the policies that George Soros represents. I don't disagree with all of his policies. I'm sure I disagree with some of them. But you're allowed to criticize money, the influence of money in politics, and the views that these very wealthy people have without, you're a racist if you say that. That's not fair to the democratic process. We get to dissent. We get to disagree. If people are saying racist things about him, sure, that's bad. Shouldn't do that. I'm sure there are some of those people out there. That is not the criticism here. The criticism here is that he supports a kind of agenda, Soros does, for criminal justice, for prosecutors that they don't like, and they don't like the priorities. They don't like that this figure, Alvin Bragg, is obsessed with bringing Trump to justice for the alleged campaign finance violation. At the same time, again, in the conservative worldview, that prosecutors like him, some of which, again, have taken funding, maybe indirectly from George Soros, are not prioritizing the kind of crime issues that so many Americans are fearful of right now. The violence in our streets, the robberies, the carjackings, the assaults by repeat offenders, by people who were just left out, the mentally ill people in the streets who aren't being taken care of or put anywhere. That is something that not just a lot of Republicans, in fact, a lot of independents and our former Democrats like yourself, I know, are very worried about is going to be a winning issue for the GOP because Democrats don't appear to be taking it seriously enough.
Indeed, my own radar is about exactly that. And I just totally agree with you. No individual person's bad behavior should be protected by their ethnicity. And when you have people in the mainstream media who are part of the elites demanding that we not criticize someone based on their ethnicity, there's more often than not a class divide that's being hidden from us and protected.
Indeed. All right. Well, I'm looking forward to your radar as well, Batya. And there'll be more rising
Thanks,
right after this.